Hello, world. How you doing? We can't tell you what we were just talking about beforehand, but hopefully I'll be okay by the end. Hopefully no one's going to rob me or come into my house and kill me by the end of this video. So, yeah, let's see what happens from there.
You never know.
Anyway, how you guys doing?
Good. So
good.
I got a quick pre-show. I saw that Kendall Coyne Schofield was once again timed, and I didn't like the headline. The headline says fastest woman on the planet, which is fine, except she's faster than a lot of men. Again,
Yeah.
It's like, let's not forget that when she went up against the All-Stars, she lost to Connor McDavid. She beat Clayton Keller. She was faster than Werenski, Hannafin, and Josh Bailey, because they were all in the contest too.
Right.
She lost to Connor McDavid, but she's faster than Clayton Keller. Like, I just feel like that headline could be better than that.
I'm with you, Russ. I'm with you. There's like, we got some heat over the weekend. I mean, we talked about the women's hockey about them, but they should play with the men. We had a debate about this basically.
Yes.
Like Kevin and I were on one side. You were on the side of some of the people who wrote in the comments, stuff like that. There were a couple of people who wrote in the comments about, we believe that they should do something with the men, and you want to keep it kind of separate from the men, which I get at the same time. But I bounced it off my wife, who was like a card-carrying feminist. Like, this woman's a PhD who works in a male-dominated thing. And I said, what do you think about this? And because I agree with everything you're saying today, Russ, about this. I mean, that's ridiculous that they call her that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's meant to be complimentary, of course.
Yeah, it is meant to be complimentary, but it's like, hey, she's one of the fastest skaters in the world. That's really the headline.
Yeah. I mean, she is. I mean, Clayton Keller's not a slow player, right? Like, Kate Keller's not a slow guy. I mean, she's probably one of the top.
If he was slow, tell the Flyers he scored a hat trick against them.
Right. She might be one of the top 20 fastest skaters in the world, like you say, like as far as hockey players go. And that's like an even top 10, or who knows? I don't even know where you put her, but
no, I don't either.
Because these, they always put the fastest. It's funny when they used to do the fastest skating competition. Excuse me, when they had the skills competitions within the teams, they used to do that once in a while, and you would see some guys that would always surprise you, like, well, that's like, there's guys that you just don't think about. But yeah, I mean, that she
3 years ago, going to be 4 years ago in January that she beat those NHLers. So 4 years later, she's not losing a step.
No, she's not losing a step at all. I mean, it's amazing, and it's great, and it just shows, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the women's sport. I know you are too, and everything like that. And people were writing in and saying that that the women to succeed on the tails of men and whatever like that. I don't see it like that. Like I also don't have a problem with the men's USA soccer team sharing revenue with the women's USA soccer team. Like I think that I don't know. Do you have a problem with that? Like I think that to me is.
I don't know about soccer. The reason, and I even spoke to some other people, women in the hockey industry about this when we had the show, and they did. One high-up person felt like the women should be on their own because it's about building the business model more than the men trying to help them. Because already, like I said, the business model is pretty good because when you could sell out Climate Change Arena for 2 straight games for exhibition for USA Canada, you don't really need the help of the men anymore. What you do need is your own spotlight. Now, if they were going to alternate days, then I'm all for it. Alternate days, fine.
Yeah, alternate days might be okay. I'm okay with that. I mean, I do want to give them their own
doubleheader is what I was.
Part of their business plan is marketing. And the huge part of marketing is visibility, right? So the visibility for men's hockey is just higher than visibility for women's hockey. There's just no two ways about that. People don't even know it exists until the Olympics, and then they think it's just something that only exists at the Olympics. The women's NHL, that they have going now, it's done a good job at what it's done, but it's very regionalized to where it is, and it's not. And that's not unlike. Listen, it's not like the NHL was when it started out either. I mean, like the NHL was regionalized to where it was too at the beginning. But sorry if that sound gets loud or anything, guys.
No, we don't hear it.
Okay, cool. So that's not where the NHL. It is an interesting topic for sure. And,
well, here's a great comment too. So Karen says that marketing for women's hockey is garbage here. I guess meaning in Canada, which is another thing because again. From what I can tell through this conversation I had, that the PWHPA league is really going to happen next year. So,
right.
Canada has to really.
I'll believe it when they actually
drop
I get it. Puck.
I get it. But
Corinne, what do you think about this? Like, I really want to, because I believe you should come on if you can come on. I don't know, let us know.
But the idea is they have to do a better job than in Canada in pre-pushing that, so people will know about it. Once they know about it, I believe they'll buy tickets.
I agree with some.
Okay.
I agree with some of the analysis regarding women's hockey, that it's not truly going to become big unless it's more than just Canada versus the U.S. It's always Canada versus the U.S. in the Olympics, or in whatever world championship. And if it's if Sweden and Russia and Finland become competitive, then I think it'll grow. And then maybe that these professional leagues in the U.S. and Canada will have a chance to thrive. Other than that, it's just, I don't know whether it'll ever be anything more than sort of a signature event, because it's only big in North America. And that, I think it needs to grow for it to be
it doesn't have to grow beyond North America for it to be big. Like, that's like,
but it could be big in North America, and that's fine. It's not like the North America, it's not like the MSL is big worldwide. I mean, they get messy, but it's not big worldwide.
And the WNBA, I don't care how politically incorrect it is. The WNBA is a joke.
This is different, though.
I know, but Russ, they promote the WNBA as being this great thing. I would say that women's soccer has more of a level of success than the WNBA, because the WNBA is sort of funded basically by the guilt of the NBA.
Right. And that's the problem right there. And that's why I don't want them to be part of a doubleheader. It's not a joke, but because everybody sees it as another arm of the NBA, it's not really growing like it should. And it's, that's the problem, where women's hockey, because of the USA Canada, is actually growing within the leagues. The leagues are doing better. And maybe if this league does happen, this will be the start of it growing more. We'll see. But the idea is that's the starting point. Like, that's what they found as the hot spot. Right. And now there are a lot of people interested in seeing the women play. So, like Corinne said, even for the PWHPA, the showcases they have, she doesn't find out about it until the week before, and that's got to change.
She's on the press list, like she covers them now for us, so like she gets that kind of stuff. So I mean, she's been credentialed into those events and everything like that. So to me, it's we got to plan a time when we can get her on here to do this, like a real proper discussion on this. I think that would be best, because
we'll have a full discussion.
She plays women's hockey in Canada. She knows women who play. She knows women who are playing now. She's just so I think that would be a great thing to do. We'll schedule a show that's like dedicated to this.
I like it.
This is a really good discussion to have.
Right, that's it for the pre-show. I'm done.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. All right, that was kind of a hockey pre-show, which for everybody out there complains about our pre-show. Yep. But for those of you who don't complain, hello, Hockey World. It is December 12th, 2022. It's a Monday, by the way.
I'm Michael Agello, and what happened at Highmark Stadium yesterday, Russ?
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology. What happened is a quarterback named Mike White looked like he was dead, and he came back from the dead, and he gave the Bills a very good scare.
I'll tell you something. Let me before you introduce yourself, I have to give that kid all the credit in the world, because he took two of the hardest hits I have ever seen a quarterback take in a game, and he came back. I have to tip my hat.
I thought it was like heaven can wait. I thought it was like, another quarterback going into his body like Warren Beatty did in that movie, because there was made no sense.
Holy moly.
Anyway. Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm Mike Lynch. You watch HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we have some interesting comings and perhaps goings, right, to talk about right off the bat, which could be determined at 2 o'clock today, right? So there's a lot of talk out there about Eli Tolvanen, who's been let go by by the Nashville Predators on the waivers. He's an interesting one, Russ, because he's like, I follow the Predators. They've wanted him to be something forever. It just has not worked out there. They've tried every possible way to make it work out. He does remarkably, though. When someone pointed it out to me that that as they've decreased his time on ice, he's scored more points. He's still actually playing fairly well. So
I'm going to look at his current points because I haven't.
Yeah, so it's. I don't know. Like, apparently he's played so little lately that this is the case, right? So,
oh yeah, he's barely playing.
Well,
but he's a good player, right? I mean, like he was a star at the juniors, and it's rare that someone who's a star at the juniors doesn't have at least an impact in the NHL.
Yes, but the criticism of him, Russ, and I'll leave this into you. The criticism of him is that one side of his game is developed and the other side is not. He is considered, he's got a big shot, he's good offensively, but that has to be balanced with somebody who's not a liability defensively. And that's the reason why he hasn't played a lot in Nashville, is because he's been a liability on the ice in terms of the matchup and in terms of going the other way. And when you're like that, you can't play for a team that wants to play two-way hockey.
Okay, but here's what you have to figure out at some point. Now, we could go all the way back to the draft. He was supposed to go to college. He didn't have the grades for college. So already that hiccup at the draft sent him tumbling a little bit in the draft because he would have been a higher prospect. So you go back to that. We look at him where he is now. I remember seeing him last year. He ended up going 30th. He could have gone much higher.
Right.
I say at some point a player is what a player is. I think the Flyers at this point and John Tortorella know what Tony DeAngelo is, and now they're figuring out how to play him. I think you have to find a team that just is going to figure out how to play him because, again, if you want to do the James Van Riemsdyk in Toronto thing where you play him mostly on the power play and a little bit 5-on-5, he's going to help some teams. He does have a good shot. He scored 11 goals 2 years ago. He could score more than that, but he would need more ice time. Well, so there is a way to play him.
He scored 11 goals in 40 games 2 years ago. Last year scored 11 in 75. Yeah. So but I don't know what his ice time brings.
The opportunity, you have to look at where he's playing, the opportunity, how he's playing. Is he getting just offensive zone starts? Like there's a whole right. You have to look at all of that. He's never going to be a star player anymore. That's obvious. But every team could use an extra guy to get 10, 15 goals. Like that's a guarantee. Teams are dying, but the problem is if you tell a coach that is a defensive coach, hey, I can get you a guy that plays, they're going to get you 15 goals, but you're going to have to be inventive the way you use them. They're going to be like, I don't have time for that. And I think that's where he is right now.
No, I agree. I think that's exactly where he is right now. And the Predators have had like an issue where, the expectations on him were high from the very start, always. And they spent a lot of time in the minors with him, like growing.
And he had good years, like with Milwaukee, he was good.
I know, letting him develop. They did all the things right, they usually do. Like it's not like a pre-RV situation necessarily where he's brought up maybe too quickly or what have you or whatever. But it does bring up an interesting thought though, and I do have a feeling, and I wrote this late last night because I got a rumor like at midnight last night, which is rare on a Sunday night. But I did write last night that that the Predators have interest in Jesse Puljujarvi, and I think you wonder about a guy like that. And when I asked some of my Predator sources, which are pretty good today, about the situation with Toivonen, they said it was purely a salary cap based decision. So if that is the case, that they're moving him just for salary cap, that and I said, well, does that mean your guys are getting something else? It's like, well, you can draw what conclusions you want to draw, that kind of thing.
Right.
So
it's more than that though, because again, why did you choose his salary?
Right. Why did you choose his salary? Yeah.
Well, he's making $1.4 million.
Right.
1.45.
And there's nobody making $1.5 million that we look at Nashville and say, you could live without him.
Well, looking at comparable salaries, like Jakob Trenin is making 1.7, but
he's big.
He's big, exactly.
Hovland's not big.
Right, exactly. Jeremy Lawson is making $2 million on defense,
but he'll elbow you in the face.
He's big, right? Exactly. So you've got like the halves, the Forsbergs, the Johanssons, the Duchesnes. It goes down to a Niederreiter at $4 million, Colton Sissons at 2.8, then it drops to entry level. So there is no in between on that team.
And there's no in between on the way Nashville wants their players to play. So it's hard for this guy to fit in. Like, it's like, how many guys, again, when's the last time, other than a Forsberg, has Nashville had just like a shooting guy that has worked out completely? And it's like, even Duchesne didn't work out completely. He had to rework his game. Like,
Yeah.
So there's definitely something to that. I'm not blaming the Predators here because, I'm saying that just the way they like their players to play isn't the greatest for Tolvanen because he's never going to be a complete player or even close to that.
That's just not his thing. I know exactly.
Well,
check this out. I was reading somebody who tweeted this out. I'm going to give. I don't know who. I don't know who Michael Gallagher is exactly. I apologize for that. I guess he's with M. He's just that he might be with. He covers the Titans. Okay, he covers the Titans and the Predators for the Nashville Post.
Okay.
All right. So this is an interesting tweet by him. He says, so the Tolvanen and Ingram are both on waivers, right? Cody Glass has been a healthy scratch multiple times this year. Tomasino was sent to the AHL the year after playing a full NHL season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't John Hines hired for his ability to develop young talent? Interesting.
Well, it's a great point. I will back him because Tomasino is a heck of a player. Now, I'm not watching him every game to say he shouldn't be sent back, but it's a great point that he looked really good last year. Why doesn't he look good this year? That's a fair criticism because he is a really good player and proven it a little bit last year.
Well,
even last year, Hines came in midway, right? Midway through the season. And after a massive shift in direction from Laviolette to Hines. You couldn't get two more differing styles of play. It was just if you're going to change your team, it's Laviolette to Hines is a big change.
Even though Ingram played well for them when Saros got hurt in the playoffs, you knew the writing was on the wall when they signed Lankinen to a 1-year deal because Lankinen's making $1.5 million. Ingram, I think, was making less than $800,000, and they put him on waivers. And he was going to get claimed because you knew, anybody who's a half decent goaltender is going to get claimed. He got claimed by Arizona, and they had Askarov in the pipeline, so you knew that Lankinen was going to be the backup to Saros, and they were going to lose Ingram. I mean, in this instance, they don't have to open up salary space contract space because they only have 45 contracts. So it is money. And because Tolvanen's making $1.4 million, they, essentially are saying, okay, we can afford to lose him. And they're probably going to lose him. Somebody's going to claim him.
Yeah.
Elliot Friedman just said on the radio an hour or so ago that he has heard at least 2 or 3 teams.
Oh, I'm sure somebody's going to take him. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah. I'd be stunned if they don't, because goals out there are hard to come by.
Right, and the teams I heard I listed today, Montreal is actually one of them, and it makes some sense. I think for Montreal, they actually also have some Finnish players, too. And I think part of that can also be, when I was talking to people in Nashville, can also be written into this thing that he has not had really any Finnish presence around him.
That's fair.
In Nashville. And Nashville's a weird place to play hockey. It's a different. When you come from playing in Finland to go to playing in Nashville, it's got to be a different kind of environment. He was better in Milwaukee, maybe because of Milwaukee's more of that standard clutch, cold hockey town. But I think that's ridiculous to say, but I'm just going to throw it out there. But at the same point, I'll say this, he goes, you look at the places that are strong with Finns, right? Carolina obviously is one that comes to mind all the time, but they don't need him, and they're not going to probably go there, and unless
Dallas, but they don't need him either.
Dallas doesn't need him. Columbus could be, that's could he go there with Patrick Laine, and that's a thing, because there's a lot of talk also about Puljujarvi rejoining Laine. Recently, I don't buy that because it would just be very strange for them to get Puljujarvi.
Yeah, I think Jarmo's going to stay away from it.
Jarmo really took a lot of heat for never taking Puljujarvi in the first place. And then
I don't know whether Jarmo really wants to improve his team right now. Let's just say this: he wants to get his young players some experience. So Kent Johnson, Sillinger, and those guys. But do you really, again, we're getting to the point where you're 1/3 of the way into the season. And if you're at the bottom of the league, why would you mess with that?
Well, Columbus, I have a little bit of insight on how they look at things differently there from some of my connections through that space. And, they, remember the time that they did tank and tried to get, they got Yakupov, remember? And,
right.
And this became a big thing that they, and it just did. No, they didn't.
They got Ryan Murray.
They got Ryan Murray. They tried to get. They wanted to get. Their hope was that they got Yakupov. Right, Yakupov went down, right. But then the other time they had they did have another Russian in there before that. Who was a year before that, right?
Filatov,
right. And that town it's just not a tank town. It's just not, and I mean, and it just really isn't. I mean, and I know you can sit there and say that, and Yarmo's not a tank GM. He just hasn't been. Like we've seen it. Right. How many times have we seen him do what he's done? Like he's
hence the reason that they only gotten past the first round once. Zach. That's the whole. You have You have. I'm sorry. And this is you have to get premium talent. Like. Say you draft Connor Bedard. Say you win the lottery and you get Connor Bedard. You have him for 8 years before he can go anywhere. 8 years.
Right.
So I'm sorry. It makes sense.
But it's just not.
Let's also point out something here, Ek.
7 years. 7 years. Excuse me.
I'm even a little shocked at this. So I was looking it up, and Nashville doesn't even have one scorer in the top 50. Number 50 is Evgeny Malkin with 28 points. 28 points would be the leader on Nashville. Yep. Right now, their leaders are Forsberg with 23, Yossi and Duchesne with 21.
I know.
Like, they can't score. Again, last year they did. Now they're back to they can again.
Yeah. I mean, they've played a few less games, I think, than some people, but not.
That's not enough
enough to justify that. I mean, obviously, you're right. I think that. And the Predators, you know, they're every team is very different, you know, in this situation.
10 goals is leading the team. 10
goals.
I
mean, they depend on. I mean, that fan base likes exciting hockey. That fan base likes.
By the way, do you know who that player is? Leading them with 10 goals?
Wait. Who are we talking about?
Nashville.
Leading them with 10 goals.
Roman Yossi?
Nope.
Forsberg?
Nope.
Colton Sissons?
Nope.
Colton Sissons.
No, but this is astonishing.
Your benefit, Mike.
This is astonishing.
You guys always make fun of me for Colton Sissons.
Well, it's got okay. It can't be one of the core three because that would be too obvious.
It's not. It's not obviously not. Right.
Okay, I'm looking just at the Sal Niederreiter.
Yes, 10 goals, 3 assists. But the idea is 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 6 players in double-digit points, and that's it.
Yeah,
it falls off dramatically after that.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? They're going to get rid of a guy who's making 1.4 and get another guy that maybe scores 5 more points this year? Like, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I don't really understand it.
That's reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic.
To me, it's just an obvious, like, Hines cannot get this guy to play his style type thing, you know, like, and he can't, he just, and for whatever reason, I mean, I don't get the impression he's a bad guy. I've never talked to people about him being a problem guy or anything like that. But I think that he's just not going to get him to play his style. And you know, Hines is, I mean, they're in with Hines, which is kind of bizarre. You know what I mean? Like, I think Hines is in trouble here. I really do. Like, I think that this is going to be an issue as the season goes on. I don't think Poyle only has like 1 or 2 more years of GMing at tops, you know, and I think that he's not going to want this team to go down like a flutter, you know. Like,
well, the only thing that puts Hines in trouble is the availability of Barry Trotz. Because if there's a chance that they could get Barry Trotz back and then he's sort of like on an entry-level program to be general manager in a year or 2.
I think that very much could happen.
Well, let's be real. If the owner at the end of the season, you know, talks to David Poyle and says, let's get Barry back, Hines is gone, and everything's going to dramatically change. And that probably has a 50% chance of happening.
But you look at that team, and that's not a Barry Trotz team.
No, he's going to have to work on it.
Well, I think Barry would. This is what I could see happening. I could see Barry coming in and coaching the rest of this season and GMing next year.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I could see him like just coming in to coach.
He knows the players.
Try to get this team going. Try to get them into the playoffs because it's a big deal to get into the playoffs for the Predators. They're not bad enough to be in really the Bedard's.
Well, they're bad, but the problem is the whole West is bad.
I know. I mean, and this is the thing with teams like the Predators. It's one thing for a team to tank in Canada. It's another team for a team to tank in Columbus or Nashville. It is a different world. It's like because you have to sell tickets the rest of this year, and you can't sell people on a 20% chance in Nashville or Columbus.
But again, it's not a 20% chance.
I know it's a 50% chance of a top 3 pick.
Right. Yes. And right now, okay, Nashville's
not even good enough. It's not even good enough.
Right now, Nashville's got 26 points.
Yeah.
In 25 games. They're in 23rd place in the NHL. They're 4 points out of 30th. So it's not a stretch. You lose 4 or 5 games, you're almost dead. I mean, you're probably not catching Chicago or Anaheim, but you improve your chances dramatically, and this is the year to do it.
But you see, Poyle doesn't see them in a rebuild right now, and I actually agree with him. I actually think I told you before the season
because he's going to say we're 3 games behind and we're 4 points out. Like I get it.
I honestly, they're right. They are right at a critical moment right now. This is a moment when, to me, you make a coaching change. To be honest, and I don't.
Yeah, if you want to make the playoffs, and I agree with you, this is probably the time. Yeah,
this is the time to do it before the holidays. Just get somebody else in there, make this work. And you have, I mean, and maybe Trotz isn't willing to do it. Like, it's very possible. Like just because he's living in Nashville with his kids, it's like it doesn't mean he's necessarily ready to make this change.
Let's put it this way: Trotz has said a lot of things in the last couple of years, but he's still collecting a check. And he doesn't mind doing it.
Right. He doesn't mind doing that. He doesn't mind hanging out and not having any pressure. I mean, it's like, and also remember, there are a lot of Predators fans that don't really want him back because it's just like, he was there a very long time. And when you're a coach a very long time in some place, you build, your enemies. I think Trotz does a great job at keeping them competitive, but there's a lot of Predators fans who would be like, oh my gosh, we're going back to Barry. That's like, that would not be something that would fly very well with some of them. But, and Preds fans are very vocal, it's a real city now, guys. It's a real hockey town, and it's like,
it's no question it's real and it's a real hockey town. But aside from last year, the problems that were plaguing them are back to plaguing them again.
Can we bring up the embarrassment that was that Boston Bruins game in Arizona where the half of the 4,000 fans at the Mullet Arena got into a Pier 6 brawl. It was Bruins fans versus Arizona fans and Arizona cops.
Yeah,
there's an arrest made.
Like, this is like documentary legendary stuff here, Mike. This is crazy.
Well, again, and maybe I'm off base here, but again, fights have broken out in 16,000 seat arenas. But I do think when you have such a small, compacted audience in that with fans on top of each other in a smaller than normal arena, that things can get heated more quickly. And they did. They were jumping all over each other. And Russ, am I wrong? Isn't it basically, it's not like individual seats. It's sort of like the Harbor Center where you're sitting on one.
Yeah, that's the way it looks to me too. Yes.
Right. And it's like, okay, when people are like battling and pushing each other for seating, and then they're jumping all over each other, and then the cops are jumping all over the people.
Yeah.
I mean, please, this is a bad situation. I know the whole thing with Bettman going in there and trying to save that franchise. I just think it is an embarrassment to this league, and that was the cherry on top of the sundae of the embarrassment to this league.
Yeah,
it wasn't a great look. I know they're going to blame the Bruins fans, but it's not a great look.
Yeah, Dave Portnoy was not in Mullet Arena in Tempe.
I've gotten, and I do, and I mean, I would like to go out there and see a game. Have you ever been in that arena, Russ?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to go out there too, just to see, because I've heard some fun things about it from players who talked to me about it. But
here's an example, and this is what drives me crazy. So, I'm watching the Flyers game yesterday, and my wife and I are remarking how, maybe, we don't know exactly the time before game time, but not a lot.
Yeah.
They showed like 25 people in front of the arena.
Yeah.
Before game time.
I know. It doesn't look good. I mean,
it doesn't look good.
And here's the thing about, like, as cool as it can be, and as niche as it can be for like a year, it can't be much cooler it can't be cooler for any longer than that. That's the other thing that you have to realize, that this is like a 3-year thing. That this is like a 3-year thing. It loses its charm quickly. Yeah. Everybody's going to go through there once, and the second time they go through there, it's going to be like they're going to a minor league team. But and that's the issue, and that the NHL is very aware of that. They do have high hopes, and I honestly do think, knowing Bettman and Daly the way I do, and I know Bettman has not, like, he definitely wants to save that. Obviously, Mike, like you said, he's done everything he can to save that franchise. But I also think that Bettman even has gotten to the point where he realizes that it might not be savable. But I also think that for this to happen, they know something that we don't know. They know something about an arena that's going to be built that we don't know about, because the NHL wouldn't do this unless they had much, and they always know more than we know. Like
Sure.
when it comes to this stuff, they always know more than they let on. And this feels like a very typical, we know more, and Karen's bringing up Quebec in the chat room, and I'm 100% there for Quebec. But
they're not going to do it for this, though. They're not.
I don't think it's going to be this one. I do think a team from the East could move to Quebec in the next little bit, but I don't think that it would be. I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be Arizona. And because Quebec was promised a team like that they built that arena on the promise of a team, and the NHL does. Bettman is good on promises, so I wouldn't be. Someone's going to get there, but it's going to be a different kind of situation than you think. It's going to be a surprising situation.
Russ and I came up with a sort of let's make a deal type game that we should discuss here, Rack, because the Board of Governors meeting is going on in Florida.
Yeah.
You're going to have the trade freeze. I think it's next Monday, the 19th through the holidays, and we're starting to see. I think there have been a few names that have been mentioned ad nauseum, like Chikrin, and we'll talk about that one. But I just saw a report that the Canucks offered Bo Horvat an extension that he rejected.
Yeah.
To my mind, that means, he with the year that he's having, he's going to go to market because he's going to hit it big. And they can't let an asset like that walk away from nothing. So he's going to get traded.
No, Kevin and I both said this. We heard the same thing on the last show, that we heard that neither Horvat nor Besser would be back next year. And that's what I heard. That's why we might talk about that.
I still think they're going to try and sign him one more time before we know that he's going to.
They might. I'm not saying that.
I don't think he wants to be back. I think he's done. I think he's done. And I think that's in order for someone to tell me that he's not going to be back next year. He is like the captain of the team, correct? If I'm wrong.
Yes.
I mean, for the captain of the team, for somebody that I know that's close enough to him to tell me that he's not going to be back this year as his captain of the team, that means he just doesn't want to go back. Like that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you haven't got the right offer yet. And then at least that's my opinion.
Yeah. So Russ and I came up with 4 names, and we can start with Besser because Besser was one of the 4 that we chattered on, and Russ, like, okay. If I'm Vancouver and Besser's got 2 more years at $6.65 million, you're not going to be able to trade him for just picks and prospects because nobody is going to take $6.65 million off your hands. You're going to have to take a salary back. Now, I don't know if it was Kev that mentioned on Friday the Anthony Mantha rumor with Washington.
Yeah.
The thing that would scare me about Vancouver, first of all, Mantha's got more term.
Yeah.
Second of all, he's an enigma. He's somebody who has an absolute ton of talent.
Yeah.
But if you look at his numbers and how they've dropped off since he went to Washington, I mean, Mantha's got 2 more years at 5.7, and Besser has got. He's got a year left at 5.7 Mantha, and Besser has got 2 more years at 6.65. So there's an extra year.
Right.
I don't think Vancouver wants a salary like Mantha back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they want a player that there's a lot of question marks like Mantha back.
They have, from what I've been told, and this was like something that I was told a long time ago, but never allowed to talk about. But then I was going to write about this tomorrow. But, because I've been told that this is flat out true. And we have a new Canucks writer coming soon as well, which is going to be fun for HockeyBuzz. But from what I've been told that they have a huge issue there with chemistry, like just the chemistry between Peterson, Besser, and all these. It's not just those guys. It's all the big guys on that team. They just aren't on the same page about how to play. And it's constant. Horvat, Besser, Peterson. It's just constant. Like now that one line, the Peterson has a line with the new Russian guy. I can't remember his name.
With Mikheyev and with Kuzmenko.
Right. No, the Besser and Horvat, they don't love the fact that that's the top line because these are the 2 guys that've been there for a very long time, right? And now suddenly, Elias Pettersson's got his own line, and but they didn't work very well with him last year. In the last couple of years, they've tried to keep them together. So that line's working really well. So why not keep them together? But I understand there feels like there's this definite, I won't want to say like European versus Canadian attitude divide going on, but you feel that like that's sort of.
I don't know if it's that, but I think it makes sense that some of what they were thought to be core players, if they're not getting treated that way, feel like they want to go.
Not always on the first power play, which is the first power play is a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Well, Kuzmenko has a reputation from the KHL of being a finisher, but knowing the way I've watching Mikheyev for 3 years in Toronto, he's not a finisher. So, but he's a guy who goes in the corners. He's big. He's fast. He's good defensively. He's responsible. So he's a good complement to Pettersson in the sense that he does a lot of things that Pettersson can't do. And every once in a while he'll shoot a puck in the ocean and score a goal. But I just think
he's got 9 goals.
I know. I'm just telling you based.
It would be the second leading scorer.
I know, but you can't base what he was doing on the Leafs.
Sure, I can. I can base it on. Yes, I can.
He wasn't getting played to his potential. He's got 16 goals in 25 games. If he had 16 points in 25 games for the Leafs, could you imagine the report you would give on him?
He'd be 6th in scoring behind Michael Bunting.
Yeah, barely behind Bunting, though. Barely.
No.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be getting.
I like Mikheyev as a player, but I don't think he's the player that you're saying he is.
You'll be bad.
He's on a bad team. This is a bad team.
It's a bad mix.
It's a flawed team.
It's a flawed team more than it's a bad team. I agree with that. They are only a couple points out of the playoffs.
I know. It stinks.
And they're a couple points out of a playoff spot with Spencer Martin playing more games than Thatcher Demko with a flawed defense. Right. I love Quinn Hughes, and Quinn Hughes is a good player, but they need like 2 more, maybe 3 more defensemen to be really effective. They're like you said, their forwards are not on the same page. I'm saying Mikheyev is a good 3rd line guy, and they got him playing 1st line with Kuzmenko and Pettersson.
They play different systems depending on who's on the ice.
Here's what I would say, and I'm sure Bruce has said it. I'm going with who puts the puck in the net and getting me points, and that's what he's doing. But here's what I would say. As far as for Besser, I would, if I were the Flyers, I would call him and I would offer him Sanheim. They're looking for a defenseman. Yeah. The Flyers are looking for a scorer.
Really smart trade. I agree with you.
The money's not that far apart. The years are not that far apart. If you let it go another year, Sanheim has a no move. So the fact that Tortorella's already kind of questioning where he's going to fit in, I would jump at this and get it done.
I think the only thing that kills that deal is the fact that Sanheim is. He hasn't even started the 8 years. It's an 8-year deal at 6 1/4, and he's on the last year of his previous deal.
I know, but it's the price of getting a defenseman these days.
Sure,
he's definitely a top 4 defenseman, and $5 million is you're not going to get a top 4 defenseman for under 5, right?
No.
So the reality is,
they don't have anybody in their system that could play like him.
Yeah, that's actually.
The Flyers could put York in there.
It would make sense.
I might put that out there as a. Do you think we should trade this on the blog?
It would make sense. So
I haven't heard anything about that or anything.
No, I haven't either. I'm just saying.
When you look at both teams, both teams are in a similar spot where they need to do something drastic too.
Correct. And you do it before the freeze. Like this is the time you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good one. Would that be in Fletcher's character to make that trade?
It would be because he's desperate.
Fletcher never acts like he's desperate, though.
But he is. He's desperate.
In other situations he's been in, he hasn't acted like he's desperate either, and he's been fired, but he hasn't acted like he's desperate.
The question is whether he has the authority and say-so to make that type of deal.
He still does. He
does. I agree with the rest. He definitely does. He could make that deal for sure.
There's been a lot of chattering at the Wells Fargo. So I can imagine they're chattering about how can we, get this club playing a little better because the coach is getting a little frustrated, and so are some of the players.
And the fans are not showing up. So it's like the Besser would bring some excitement. Like he's an exciting player when he's energized. He's a fun player to watch.
He play on the top line.
He's a Flyer type player. I think that would be a fantastic move for them. And even though I do believe Sanheim is going to be a good NHL defenseman, really a better than average NHL defenseman too.
Now, the one that interests me a lot is Timo Meier, because whoever falls short on the Patrick Kane sweepstakes is definitely going to be going after Meier, because Meier scored 35 goals last year. He's almost point per game right now on a bad San Jose team. I don't know if San Jose is trying to sign him like they did the Hurdle, but it doesn't. I have not heard anything out there about them having any progress on an extension. And why would they? They're in such cap jail right now with Couture and Carlson. And now I don't know whether Mike Greer is going to play that BS game that happened a few years ago where, okay, I'll trade you Hurdle or I'll trade you Meier if you take Carlson or you take Vlasic. And if he tries to do that, he's going to get stuck and he's going to lose that guy for nothing in free agency. You trade him, you get as much as you can for him, and you'll get a big package, Russ. I think they'll get a first, a prospect, and a player for Meier, because Meier is damn good.
He doesn't have any years remaining, right?
No, he's a rental.
Yeah, I don't know if they're getting all three, but I have two, and this is the two that I have. I have Meier going to Calgary for Mangiapane and a second, the 2023 second.
If Calgary thinks
second, sorry, because they don't have a second.
If Calgary thinks they're in it, the one I have,
I think they're in it.
Yeah, the one I have is the Islanders. He makes sense for the Islanders.
I have him on the rumor chart for the Islanders at 25%.
Yep.
Or 35%, I should say. But the team that really, really is hot on his trail is New Jersey. They are absolutely 100% on it. And the thing about New Jersey that works is that they can pick him up without having to lose salary at the same time. So San Jose, San Jose can move him without picking up any salary, which is
they have the cap space. They have the pick. They have the picks and the prospects.
Right. They have the cap space, picks, and prospects. So. And they believe that they could, show him that it's a great place to play. He comes there because New Jersey has had a tough time with free agents. So to them, they need it. They almost feel like they need a trial, to bring somebody in.
Would you do Alexander Holtz and a number one for player?
No.
Would you do just Holtz?
No, I wouldn't trade Holtz.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they would either. I don't think you'd have to either, because the benefit that you are going to get more, you don't have to give up as much because you're not giving back cap. There's going to be a little bit of a benefit from that, I think, because, San Jose wants to definitely clear out cap space.
Right, but it's only a rental, so it'll only be $3 million for the rest of the year.
Right.
You want to maximize your assets coming back.
Oh, for sure. But I think that New Jersey does have a ton of other prospects from what I've been told. I don't know.
Yeah, they do. It's just a lot of them are playing.
Yeah.
There were two prospects. Like Graham Clark is a good prospect. If you threw Graham Clark in there, who's Graham Clark's brother, he's having a nice year. That and a pick, and maybe even 2 picks.
They're not going to trade Nemec.
They're not trading Nemec.
They're not going to trade. They're not going to trade Luke Hughes.
Nope.
Would they trade Chase Stillman?
Nobody wants Chase Stillman like that. Not for that.
Right, and that's why I fall back on Holtz. It's like you're not trading Dawson Mercer.
No.
Maybe
that's what I'm saying. It's going to be Graham Clark or Tice Thompson or guys like that, and
or the Russian defenseman Shakir.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't even know if they trade him. Maybe.
Well, they have to give up. They have to give up something to get something.
Also,
but they don't need it. That's the whole point. They're in a position of strength. They don't need to.
San Jose will allow you, from what I've been told, to talk to him. So, if they can extend him, then the price changes, right? So if it's not a rental.
Yeah, I don't think they want to sign Timo Meier long term. What's the point?
No, they definitely do. In New Jersey.
I disagree with that.
No, I've been told they do, flat out.
Wow.
Why would you think they wouldn't?
Because right now they don't need them. They have young guys coming. Why exactly? What spot do they need Timo Meier for?
Well, what that tells you, if they're say for sure they want to sign Timo Meier to an extension. That means they're not interested in signing Jesper Bratt to an extension because they can't sign both of them.
No, they do. Yeah. They have the cap space to sign both of them.
I will answer Esmir too. The Devils can't afford to trade Ty Brennan because he could be their goalie in 2 years. And they've had all kinds of goalie issues. They're not going to trade their best goalie in their system.
Yeah.
Dawes, I think Brennan's better than Dawes. That's just me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know those guys.
I know.
But yeah, so I trust you on that one for sure. But I don't trust you on the other thing you're saying at all. Right?
That's fine. You don't have to. I'm just saying I don't see
the thing about Timo Meier is they have a lot of players, a lot of good young players for sure. But if they want, Fitzgerald, who's the GM of that team, is all about balance, and they don't have the veteran type presence that Timo Meier would bring to them. Not just on the ice, but just as a veteran.
He's a power forward.
Power forward.
So okay, looking at their, Tatar is a UFA, Miles Wood's a UFA, Hall is a UFA, Severson and Graves are UFAs. Between those 5 players, that's $18 million in cap space that's coming off the books. But you also have a ton of RFAs that you have to re-sign. So
Brad's going to be able to be re-signed.
They're not going to spend to the cap unless they go far in the playoffs. They're not a spend to the cap.
Well, that's for sure. I agree, and they're not now. But I mean, they have some cap space right now, don't they, Mike?
Yeah, they have tons.
Right. So they're money's coming off, but they hardly have cap space on top of that. I mean, so that you could bring another $18 million off or whatever.
Timo Meier is a nice complementary player. He's not a player that makes you win, and I don't think the Devils should do it. And I'd be surprised if they did it.
I disagree with that. I disagree on Timo Meier's value too. I think that's why we're probably. I see Timo Meier as a way more valuable player than that.
Oh no, he's a valuable player, but I'm just saying if you're getting Timo Meier to put you over the top to win, he's not the guy.
That's why I
would rather have Logan Couture, even though he doesn't score as much, because he could put you over the top to win.
That's why I think that Meier and the Islanders is a better fit. Yes, because they're more.
I could see him on the island because they need that. The Devils don't need it.
Well, and the other thing I do think Timo Meier is going to require a first-round draft pick.
Yes.
I mean, you could somebody will give him a conditional first, maybe not. It won't be this year's draft.
No, you have a lot. His value out there.
I mean, the Devils might because it's like
the Devils because they're making the playoffs.
So they'll be like 25th. The Devils might.
Yeah. And the Devils might have another pick too that we don't know about. I mean, do they have more than one first round pick in this draft?
They have just their own first.
Just their own. Okay. They have a bunch of other picks somewhere, I think. But yeah, they are
also. If you go in and you extend Meier, you're waving goodbye to Severson, which maybe they're doing anyhow, and you probably. Then signing Brett to his next contract. Good luck.
You're signing Brett. They have so much money, Brett. I mean, it's like they have them. They
have it today. It's going to get
money, but they have enough money to sign Prass and Myers. They have enough money to do 2 big deals.
They're going to have to listen. Jack Hughes will get another contract before you know it. Like I'm just saying, they have it today because they have a lot of young players performing. Yeah. But Timo Meier is the classic kind of like bloat that you don't need because even though he gets points and he's a very good player and I like him, he's not going to make them any better.
Okay. Yeah. Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Alexander Holtz, and Dawson Mercer. What do they all have in common? They're the only players on the Devils cap on their NHL roster that are signed past this year.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody else is arbitration eligible RFA or UFA.
Yeah, they got enough money for that.
And they're gonna, but a lot of those guys are going to take the money because they're having such a great year. They're having a good situation. They're going to take a little bit less money to stay where they are because
that's going to eat up most of that $18 million that's getting locked. That's getting freed up.
Still have what do they have? $15 million in cap space now that they still have on top of that.
No. Right now, with like they just called up Andreas Janssen. Yeah. They're right up against the cap.
Right.
But they, and that's with Bernier on LTIR. Now, if they put Palat on LTIR, then they open up $6 million in cap space.
Right.
So they have some flexibility, and they have UFAs that they can move out. I mean, you could move out Tatar as part of a deal. Like say you'd send Tatar to San Jose as part of the deal.
As part of that deal for sure. Yeah. But because you're going to replace him, obviously they don't want to do too much chemistry wise because they are really doing well. So, but I think that at the same time, they are absolutely. It's hard to underestimate the amount of bite not getting Johnny Gaudreau got out of them. As good as they're playing now, as well as they're playing, and they're playing great, and it doesn't seem to have mattered, that they didn't get Johnny Gaudreau is fine. They absolutely that they've had Johnny Gaudreau is not the first guy that they thought they were close to getting that they didn't get. and they feel like they're being used as a pawn all the time.
Yeah, but that's fine. But that doesn't mean you should go and overpay Timo Meier, which is exactly what you're talking about doing.
Well, I don't think Timo Meier is going to get over. I think Timo Meier as a free agent is going to make his money. He's going to do pretty well.
But see, Russ, okay, it all depends on whether New Jersey truly believes that they're a Stanley Cup contender. If they do, then they have enough assets in that organization that they could trade one of them and a low first-round pick, which would be this year, to take a shot with Meier. And then if Meier wants to re-sign there, then they have the ability to do that. But you have to strike while the iron is hot.
No, but like if you're playing it that way, Mike, he's not going to re-sign with them. The only way he's re-signing them is the way Eck is saying because of the troubles they've had. Timo Meier is going to go through there, and then he's going to go to free agency if that happens.
Right.
In all likelihood, yes, I agree with you.
Because that's what everybody else has done.
I know, I agree. If they can get, I think if they could make a deal where they knew they could extend him, that's the kind of player they have been looking for. They went. That's why they went after Palat. And whether you can say that's right or wrong, they'll get
Palat back. I mean, it's not season ending.
No,
but I mean that's why they did the signing because they
veteran guys who's won cups.
The veteran guys, yeah, they want some guys in there with experience. They don't want like Jack Hughes to be running the whole show,
which he's doing right now.
Right, which he's doing right now, and he's definitely the guy. And listen, he's having a great. And it's going to be soon. It's going to be Jack and Luke. It's going to be they're going to be the stars of that team for years to come.
Well, I don't want to put too much pressure on Luke Hughes. I want to see him in the NHL before I think.
Right. He's going to be good, but I'm not going there yet either. But the point is, I just wouldn't do it. I would be very shocked if the Devils sign him to an 8-year extension.
All right. I'm here to officially put the pressure on Luke Hughes, guys. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I'm sure he's very thankful that.
I'm sure he is.
You can't put pressure on that kid.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Like the other Hugheses, they're all pretty grounded when it comes to the hockey.
Grounded. I've met Luke Hughes.
You're not going to be able to put pressure on him.
I mean, I think Luke is a perfect combination of some parts of Quinn Hughes and some parts of Jack Hughes. Like I think that it's really, to me, it's an interesting thing. Like I think he's going to be the best defenseman of them all. Like he's going to be maybe not the best.
He's the biggest.
He's the biggest, but I also just think that he has ice.
I don't think he'll be better than Quinn Hughes.
No,
I think he is. No, it might not be better than defensively. I think he's going to be better defensively than Quinn Hughes.
Sure, okay.
One of Quinn Hughes' upside, but he'll be close. He'll be close enough that he'll be better all around. I think.
I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm
not sure of that yet. And
Jack,
I like him a lot.
Jack and Quinn Hughes are hockey savants. I think Luke Hughes could be a very, very good player, but I think he's a sort of a different genre than those two.
I don't know. I think he's in there.
I've seen enough things with Luke Hughes to say that even in college, there's still mistakes he's making, and I know he wants to go right to the pros, and that's great. Yeah. There's still a learning curve for him. That's all I'll say.
I think that's why he's still at Michigan.
Yeah. The next name on the list is Gavrikov, who I think we'll be hearing a lot of before the deadline because we know Columbus is going to be trading these guys because they always trade their rentals, and he's a $2.8 million cap hit, which means if they retain 50%, he's 1.4, which is not much. So contending teams can fit him under the cap, which us immediately makes me think Rangers, Tampa, Toronto, Boston, East, all could Florida, especially with their connections to between Zito and Yarmo, and his knowledge of Gavrikov. But the problem with a couple of those teams, Florida doesn't have any draft picks. They barely have any prospects. How can they make that deal?
Yeah, I don't think Florida will be making that deal. I don't think so. I mean,
I think Florida they're going to just focus on trying to make the playoffs. I don't know if they can make a big deal like that.
Seattle has claimed Tolvanen.
Okay, there you go. So Seattle, that's great. I mean, that means you got pretty far, doesn't it? Because isn't it based on
Seattle's doing pretty well? That means it got to the middle.
Isn't it based on current record? That means a lot of people pass on him. Huh. That's interesting. Well, that's that's a good move for Seattle. Yeah. I'm unquestionably.
If I'm and I do have the Rangers as the team on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you went with something like a second-round pick, which would have to be a 2024, and then, you could choose from players. There's Will Cully, who's a very big player who's doing well in the AHL. There's do you want to go from this draft? Bryce McConnell Barker's having a really nice year for the Sioux. I give him.
Right.
Something like that. Something in that range. They have guys. You could just go down the laundry list and you can get one of them. You're not getting Hedel or Lafreniere or Kakko for Gavrikov, but you get one of them in a 2024 second. And I think if they got the player they like, because there's somebody on that list that they wanted, I think that's a deal.
Now, Tampa has the same problems that Florida does. They've exhausted they have prospects still, but they've exhausted a lot of them. They don't have a ton of draft picks, so it would be tough for them to make that kind of move and I think you're right, Russ. I think it would take at least a second round pick.
Yeah.
If Tampa only has they don't have a first this year or next year. They only have a second for next year. So they could potentially make it, but they're right up against the cap too. I don't think Boston. The funny thing is, the one thing in Toronto, everybody is putting defensemen with Toronto right now, and the one thing that the last month has helped the Maple Leafs out with is that now they have confidence in Sandin and Liljegren. They're getting Riley back. They got Brody back. They have Giordano and Timmins and Hall. And I think Hall is flawed, but he's played well the last month. I think they want to add a defenseman for depth, but I don't think they need to add a big number 2, number 3 defenseman.
No, they don't need that.
Yeah. And, speculation and the rumors out there about Luke Schenn, that fits because he's low salary. He's been in the Toronto market before. He's very physical, and apparently they've been interested in him before, like in the last couple of years, but Vancouver didn't want to trade him. Now I would assume if Vancouver drops out of the race, they'll trade Luke Schenn because he's.
I just want to mention to somebody in the chat room, they're saying, hey, Lane Hudson could be the next Quinn Hughes. I want to tell you what it takes to be the next Quinn Hughes. 2 years ago, he had 68 points. This year, on a bad team, he's got 25 assists in 24 games. Good luck. And Lane Hudson's a really nice talent, but there's other things Lane Hudson doesn't do that Quinn Hughes does.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the challenge for him. And he's a really good player, really good defenseman. He's doing great in college. But I'm just saying, be careful when you say you're going to match up someone to Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, we heard the Lane Hudson comparison to Quinn Hughes at the draft, and it's simply because Lane Hudson is very small.
Yeah, and he's fast, and he's getting a ton of points. He could drive offense.
Right.
But he's going to have to be able to do that every ladder up there.
Right.
And Quinn Hughes is an amazing thinker. Like
Quinn Hughes
knows where the play is going to be.
He's got like that Scott Niedermayer thing about him to me.
Yeah.
That size doesn't seem to be an issue at all, and it's just like that he's so smart that he's ahead of it.
Rafalski was a small guy too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, here waivers for today. Carson Kuhlman for Seattle, so they claimed Tolvanen and waived Kuhlman.
Right.
And Dyson Mayo for Arizona. Russ, I heard lots of trade talk about Dyson Mayo.
I think they were just floating him. He's a good kid. I watched him in the Mem Cup the last time I went to the Mem Cup. I mean, he could play NHL minutes, but he's really just a depth defenseman.
I think you should hold the Mayo, Mike, honestly.
Mike would hold it because he hates condiments.
That's the only one that I can accept.
Okay.
Ketchup and mustard are disgusting.
Really? Strange.
I have something for Chikrin. I'll throw it out there for Chikrin.
Yeah, that's the last one because I'll make a prediction right now, and this is just based on my feeling. Chikrin will be traded before the freeze.
Ooh, I don't think so, but yes, I would love that because we could use the traffic mics from God's ears from yours. Anyway,
but Russ, go ahead.
Okay. Also, to mention to GSM, Hughes' stats weren't as good as Lane Hudson's. Look at Michigan's team. They have Adam Fantilli, who's 26 points. Like, I'm not Michigan. Sorry, he's on he's in one of the Boston colleges. I think
BU.
But again, I don't think Hughes' Michigan team was as good as what BU is now. That's my feeling back then.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but it's a long trip. Sorry, my brain went to Michigan.
No, totally.
But Chikrin, I have him going to Colorado for Bowen Byram. Straight up.
Huh.
Ooh.
Straight up.
Ooh. Wow. That would be bold because, well, okay, this is the thing. Byram's going to have to be paid next year.
That's fine.
Right.
I mean, they're going to have to pay.
No, I'm saying that's the one. That's okay. Chychrun, do you think he's the equal of Byram? I think Byram could be better.
Well, he's a better physical player. He's not the offensive equal. And the thing about Byram is he hasn't had good enough years where he's going to get a big payday. You can get him on a 2 or 3 year deal here.
That's true.
Right, and protect yourself from UFA by not extending him longer than a bridge deal. But yeah, no, I mean that would be bold. That would be now. Yeah. I mean that's a 1-for-1. They seem to want more than that, Russ.
Yeah, but they're not going to get a 1 in any trade that's as good as Bowen Byram. They will not.
No, probably not.
Colorado could afford to do this deal.
I don't know why. I don't know why you would make that trade if you're Arizona, to be honest, because you're getting 2 players that are both young.
Because he would be the best defenseman on the team.
He's the best defenseman on the team right now. So, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
So it's like you're just really trading player for player, and
no. Hold on. Anybody else you're making a trade with, you're not getting a defenseman of this quality in the trade for Chychrun, and now you're hoping that Soderstrom comes on and does something, because if he doesn't, then you're in trouble.
But I get the impression that they're afraid of putting all their eggs in like one basket like that with Bo Byron. I think they'd rather do the first round draft pick prospects type route, where they have like somebody who ended up being better than all of them. You know.
Here's what I would say about that, Ek. Based on everything else, we're waiting for this vote in May, right? Let's just say, for argument's sake, the vote doesn't go their way. Whoever the next owner is of this team, they're going to want a player like Byram. They're not going to shy away. They're going to act like Ottawa's been acting this year, and they're not going to act like Arizona the way they've been acting, because they're going to want to compete, because wherever they're going to need to compete.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Byram is in the final year of his ELC.
Mm-hmm.
Chychrun has 2 more years left before he's a UFA.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gaining 3 years and 3 years of age and 4 years where you can have him under control. Mm-hmm. That's for Arizona. By that time, by the end of that 4 years, they might be a good team. Right. They're definitely not going to be a good team in the next 2 years, because the way that team is structured right now, where they are and what they're doing. I mean, that's why Chychrun wants out of Dodge, because
right. But where would you get anybody like Byram of that quality on the blue line, which you're going to need, because they clearly don't have anybody that could be a number 1. Where would you get that? That's
I think it would take a little more, but I think
I mean, they'll probably sweeten it, but I think they're not going to give.
You know, the Chychrun's better. I think Chychrun's got bigger upside than Bo Byron, even though they're both in the
Chychrun's at where he's at. He's not going to get any better. He's 24 years old.
I don't know if he has more upside. I mean, I'm watching him last night.
He's not at where he's at yet. No.
Okay, take last night's game, for example, right? He's playing against the Flyers team, which is an okay defensive team and not very good otherwise, right? I shouldn't even say okay defenseman, because it's like lately they've been okay. But
they can only play offense or defense in a game, Russ. They have no choice. They one or the other, so that's what they do.
It's just, they're good one day, bad the other. But the point is, Chychrun wasn't a big force in that game. He had 1 good hit and 1 good shot on net, and I didn't see a lot else from him.
No, I mean,
he knows he showcased himself. Like, he knows that.
I do, but I also think he's afraid. I mean, I think the guy's like been coming off of injuries. He's not at his peak yet. He's still coming back. He's still coming back for sure.
Okay, if you want to go with the premise that he's not at his peak, he's 24. He's close to his peak. He's never had more than 41 points. He is what he is, Ek.
But what's Bo Byron's biggest season point wise? Do you think?
Sorry.
Yeah, what's Bo Byron's biggest point season?
I think he could get 55.
Yeah, perhaps.
But he's not physical like. But he's not physical like.
He in 30 games last season, he had 17 points.
Okay, so
as a 20-year-old not even playing power play minutes, because Makar and Girard and Taves are all playing more offensive minutes.
Agreed. No, I like Bo Byron. I do. I like him a lot, but I think he's going to be a star in this league. But I don't know that. I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't think. I think the 1-for-1 Colorado. Why would Colorado do this move?
Because they need some physicality on the blue line, because they're going to go through a long stretch to try and win a second Stanley Cup, And Byram is like an extra piece to help do that, where if you bring in Chychrun, you could have him be your physical defenseman.
Plus, there's cost certainty with Chychrun at 4 point whatever million. Byram becomes is an RFA at the end of this year, and offer sheets. I mean, there's a possibility that we always know, or his salary could be fairly close to Chychrun, and we know Byram's had some injury issues, so is Chychrun. So
Chychrun, I know. I just feel like that. I feel like Chychrun's got more of a star power than Bo Byron does. I
don't think so. I disagree with that.
Byram is a top 4 overall pick. He's a big talent.
And we also have to say this: if they get Chychrun, they don't need Erik Johnson anymore. Like this.
Well, he's going to retire anyway.
Right.
The one
as far as Chychrun for me goes, let's just throw this out there real quick before we go, because I still hear Toronto is trying to do everything they can to get Chychrun.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. You know what? Edmonton makes sense. I was going to say the one that I had was Dylan Holloway, a number 1, and Kailer Yamamoto, a player, a prospect, and a pick. That's what Arizona is looking for, and Edmonton is desperate.
It's not bad, but it's not bad. I mean, Edmonton. I know Edmonton's been dangling their first round pick out there for sure. I've heard that.
First of all, I'll tell you right now. Okay, with the injury to Nick Robertson, the Leafs are not trading Matthew Knies. Not for anything.
He's untouchable.
Yeah, so they're not trading him, and Robertson is out for 2 months. So the Leafs have a first round pick. Maybe they would trade one of the defensemen, although, we know how Dubas is when it comes to the guys that he's drafted. He's a fan of them for a reason, and they're starting to play well. So I don't see them, and it's a risk. It's a risk because
think about this. So, Mike, even if it was Liljegren or Sandin, it would be one of them.
Yep.
Even if it's one of them and a good pick, how is that as good as Byron?
It's not.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends if you get if the a first round pick and Liljegren, let's say Sandin maybe, because Sandin's maybe a little bit further.
I don't think they're doing that. Right now, Sandin or Liljegren are making $1.4 million.
Right. They're more valuable than a first round pick.
Yeah, Chychrun's making 4.6 for 2 more years. Liljegren and Sandin are making $1.4 million this year and next year, and they could get better from what they are right now. So why would you do that?
No, listen. I don't disagree with. Again, there's a difference between what I hear and what I think should happen. Like all the points you're making in this case, Mike, actually do make sense.
Here's what I will tell you, Eck. As desperate as these teams are to get good defense, if Chychrun were like still a budding superstar, somebody would have paid the price already.
Yeah.
People are afraid of him.
There's a lot of
reason to be.
There's a lot of hesitancy because of his injury history.
Yep.
Right now he's playing really well for Arizona, and I think all those questions are sort of fading into the woodwork. But the problem is that one bad step, one shot off of his foot, and then all those worries come back.
Yeah, he's playing well, but he's not playing at the level that still he has to play at to get what they want to get for him.
Right.
Like he's showing that he can play in the NHL, but he's not showing that he's like
But how much? Like the question is, how long does he have to do this? I mean, he's scoring at a point per game pace, and he's +6 for Arizona.
Oh, that's impressive. And this he's showing that what people want to see is that he is the Chychrun from before, not the Chychrun from last year. That's what people want to see. And
it seems like he's close to the Chychrun from before, but I also think he's close to leveling out too.
Could be. Yeah, it's possible.
But we'll see.
All right, all the time we have for today, folks. Good show as always. Really appreciate the topics. We'll talk more rumors for sure tomorrow. We'll have Kevin will be joining us tomorrow. Russ will be out tomorrow. Kevin will be here, and we will get into more of this stuff for sure.
I hope Kevin doesn't Wally Pitt me. That's all.
I'm sure he will. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Who's Wally Pitt?